Jodey Peyton. Jodey is an ecologist at the UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology, and she's the Vice Chair of NFBR and one of the most enthusiastic and motivating people I know. That's made her blush. She works on a range of projects involving community engagement and is doing a part-time PhD on invasive and non-native species. She's going to be talking about a project that UK CEH led, working with a housing association and looking to support biodiversity on housing provider sites and linking residents with local wildlife recordings. Jodey.
Thank you, Simon. That's a very nice introduction. And as part of my enthusiasm and excitement, I also speak quite quickly. So I will try and speak calmly and slowly, but it's such a pleasure to be with you all today. Yeah, I'm just really sorry we can't be here in person, but hopefully next spring at our conference next spring, we'll be able to be together in one space under one roof. But this is a fantastic way of being with so many people. So thank you for attending. I've been loving also the records coming in through the chat as well. It's been such a lovely way to spend the break, so thank you. I'm actually going to turn my video off because I've had some unstable internet, so I'm going to turn it off for the talk and then I'll put it back on again for the questions. So I'll do that just now and then I will share my screen. Simon, is that working? Is that screen working?
Yeah, it's working.
Oh, great, thank you. So great, yeah, thank you. So I'm going to be talking today about a project that I co-led with my colleague at UK CEH, Mark Botham, to develop a biodiversity toolkit to help estate services teams manage green spaces around the housing association sites. So Matt's talk gave a really great introduction actually to the sort of talk I'm going to give today. So thank you, Matthew Frith. So as an overview, I'll start by giving a quick introduction to the project, what we're aiming to achieve. I'll talk about biodiversity and why we need to improve it in urban areas. It will improve habitat for it in urban areas, but I know many of you would already be more than aware of why we are where we are. And then I'll run through the toolkit and show some management options from it. So it's an 21-month project in the end. We had a 3-month COVID extension. It was funded by the Natural Environment Research Council. It was a collaborative project in which we worked closely with Southern Housing Group, as well as the Thames Valley Environmental Record Centre, BBOUT, Bracknell Forest Council and ALERC. So Tom's here today, I know, so hi Tom. The main idea of the project was to work with Southern Housing Group to develop a biodiversity toolkit to help them and other housing associations improve biodiversity in green spaces on their estates, and also to improve the sites for residents and help them get involved in wildlife recording. Part of developing this toolkit, we worked on a Southern Housing Group case study site in Bracknell, and this is where the estate services teams actually implemented a range of the management options that we're talking about, so I will talk about later. So yeah, it was a great study site. So I know many of you will already be aware that we've been watching declines in biodiversity in recent years. The Global Living Planet Index continues to decline. It shows an average 68% decrease in population sizes of mammals, birds, amphibians, reptiles, and fish between 1970 and 2016. There's been a 94% decline in the Living Planet Index for the tropical subregions of the Americas, and it's the largest fall observed in any part of the world. But these declines are also happening on our doorstep, and it's not happening equally across all habitats. And importantly, for what we're talking about today, like biodiversity in urban areas, some of these declines are more pronounced in urban areas. So this is an example from a study that some colleagues at Butterfly Conservation and David Roy at work carried out. This shows population trends for a set of butterfly species in the UK that are found in both urban and rural areas. Rural is showed in the green and urban in the reddy brown. Urban trends were negative for all 28 UK butterfly species considered, and the trends were more negative in urban versus rural areas for 25 out of the 28 species. So yeah, so there's quite a few different drivers of decline, and they sort of interconnect. And sort of, yes, I'll be sort of focusing on the expanding urban habitats, because these are replacing meadows, woodlands, heathlands. You saw from Matthew's talk, yeah, the kind of increasing urbanization. And, you know, some of these new developments, they do have green spaces, but they're often not the same quality habitat that was there before. So we've got direct habitat loss and also sort of degraded sort of habitats that are left. And so this means that the habitats that are left are smaller and more isolated, reducing migration opportunities for species between those different habitats. And so you may have heard this already before, but we've lost 97% of meadows in the UK since the 1930s. And meadows are incredibly biodiverse habitats with lots of different plants and animals in. This slide shows one example of reduced quality habitat in urban areas. And obviously this contrasts to like a nice sort of structurally diverse flower-rich meadow. These photos are taken from around Didcot, which is a rapidly growing town near where we work in Wallingford. And these grasslands are cut regularly, surrounded by roads and limited in the support they can provide for plants and animals. These colleagues were taken by my colleague Mark on his evening walks. So yeah, so our project, like we're aware, as Dawn's talked about as well, there's so many excellent projects going on at the moment around sort of supporting wildlife, and our project is just one of those many things that are going on. There's No Mow May from Plant Life, which encourages people to leave green spaces to grow throughout May, and therefore lets plants flower and provides a food resource for invertebrates as well as like a home as well. There's also the Blue campaign, which is really keen to work with councils and support them in realising their ecological responsibilities. There's Naturehood. There's some great, there's BTO's projects. Well, there's so many too many to mention. But what we want to do with our toolkit is we wanted to sort of bring these resources together. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. There's so many good things going on. We just wanted to sort of signpost them to the people who are on the ground doing the work. So that's what we wanted to do. So I've given a bit of background as to why we wanted to get involved in supporting urban wildlife, but we also want to support people in urban areas as well, as Matthew also said. The UK is seeing an increased demand for affordable housing as population densities increase in some areas. And housing association sites are more likely to be in urban high density areas, which reduces residents' options to live around nature. And obviously this is a problem because we know that sort of time spent in green space is known to increase well-being. So we wanted this toolkit to be our practical and useful resource to help estate services teams support biodiversity and the residents on their site. So I've got a link to the toolkit here, but I appreciate it's quite an unwieldy URL. So I think hopefully Aaron or Dan might be posting a link to the toolkit in the website, in the chat, sorry. So you can have a look at it if you want to later on. Yeah, and it'd be nice to know what you think about it. So yeah, as I said, we're really keen sort of to work together to help point estate services teams in the direction of other organisations doing work in their area, such as local wildlife trusts, local environmental record centres and local councils. We really want to sort of share the resources and the knowledge and the expertise that are in these local communities. So as I said, we had a case study site in Bracknell, and we commissioned the Thames Valley Environmental Record Centre to undertake an extended phase 1 survey of the site before the work started. And Julie and Mark went out and did some excellent surveys and found quite a lot of species, actually, about over 300 species. That's actually across a couple of surveys before and after the work, but yeah, really impressive actually. And so in the toolkit, we recommend these initial site surveys as part of the whole project, because it can help inform estate services teams of what options will be most beneficial to be put on site. And by promoting links to local environmental record centres and wildlife trusts and other organisations, estate services teams can support the local wildlife and tailor options to what species are found nearby, and also what's rare in the area. For example, Bracknell's got some great populations of stag beetles, and they've been seen on site as well. So putting in Deadwood Options, Southern Housing Group has therefore been able to help support stag beetles on site. So that's really great. And also we were really lucky, again, with these local connections. We were working with Marlies at Bracknell Forest Council, and she arranged for the management of the adjoining habitat between the study sites in 2 different plots of land. And she's arranged to give sympathetic management to the land in between the case study sites to sort of provide an interconnecting corridor, which is really excellent. Yeah, and this is just a quote from Marlies. It was just really nice to see how this toolkit can hopefully help support like local biodiversity, and again, help support residents as well. We're really keen to bring in that resident element. So yeah. And talking about resident involvement, we encourage like bringing in the toolkit again. We encourage bringing in residents early on when estate services teams are designing and choosing the options, so that co-design and shared ownership is a part of the process. And this is what we did at the case study site. We did survey questionnaires, we did a consultation event, all just pre-COVID. We had yeah, this consultation event then led to Southern Housing Group being able to go through, select the options that they wanted, that they and the residents wanted. And that's like a key part of it really, is that communication. Because as well as when you're sort of talking about management and leaving areas to grow a bit wild, if you have to sort of explain to the residents what you're doing, because otherwise if you're just leaving it looking a bit unkempt, they might feel the estate services teams are not bothering to mow, you know, they pay their service charge and it's not having anything done. So we also developed signposts to explain why areas were being left, and yeah, to kind of help help estate services teams to explain why what was happening on the site. And we were also really keen to give a list of ways that state services teams and residents could get involved in monitoring the wildlife on their sites as part of this engagement. So yeah, but unfortunately, of course, when we were going to present at the 2020 NFBR conference, because obviously this conference today should have been a year ago, we had plans for the resident engagement days. We were going to have a bio blitz. We were going to be sort of running training on sort of monitoring methods like those in the pollinator monitoring scheme, which Martin's going to talk about after me. But of course, 2020 meant, like for many others, our plans had to radically change. And Southern Housing Group, they managed to keep going with what they were doing. They did an amazing job of getting the options implemented that they'd sort of, the residents and they had chosen, and they sort of went ahead, and we've heard feedback from the estate services team about the wildlife sightings that residents have made to them, and also how much the residents are enjoying the options on site and really enjoying sort of being out and sort of, yeah, seeing what's going on. So that's hugely heartening, and to be honest, testament to the efforts of Southern Housing Group in making those options sort of happen. So yeah, it's really impressive given the conditions. So for the toolkit itself, what we've got is we've got a PDF, and before the management options are there, there's this overview, and this gives a summary of 26 options that we include in the toolkit. Of course, it's not all the options that are possible, but it is ones that are on the whole not too costly and commonly used. And this overview was something that we developed with Southern Housing Group, as they wanted to know how to narrow down the list of options available on the site. Because obviously they just have a list of options. How do they know what's useful or not? So we came up with Southern Housing Group with this overview, and how suitable they'd be for, and yeah, I'm sorry, can you still see this? Sorry, it's cut off.
You can still see it, yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry, my screen's doing something weird. I'm sorry, everybody. My computer's having a bit of a meltdown.
That's all good.
Yeah, sorry. This overview was what we developed with Southern Housing Group, and to help them narrow it down. So yeah, so I'll show you some of the management options in a minute. But we just wanted to show in this overview how suitable the options would be for different housing estate density, how costly they would be to install, and what level of ongoing management we required. And we had simplified keys for that. For the housing density, we wanted to reflect not just how many residents live on the estate, but also how much green space is available within the density descriptions. And we developed the scale with Southern Housing Group. So high is high-rise flats with limited green space, and low density is sort of semi-urban areas with more green space, which of course increases the options that are available. But the key thing is there are options available for high density as well. And then for each management option, we wanted to give information on what plants and animals will be supported, how expensive the options would be to implement, and how they could be achieved. And yeah, so as you can see from this overview, we have 6 different categories to help demonstrate the choices. So like plants, grasslands and flowers, plants, trees and shrubs, pollinators, other invertebrates, birds and mammals, general biodiversity, and sustainability. So, yep. Cool. So the overview table at the beginning of the biodiversity options will help estate services teams work out what would be suitable to implement. They can kind of narrow it down. And this, I'll now just give a few examples of more detailed accounts for the options.
I think we've lost your presentation, or I have at least.
Oh.
Let me just check with anybody else.
Yeah, I've lost it.
Okay. Yeah, the screen share stopped.
Okay. So. Sorry.
Yeah,
hopefully I'm getting everyone's nightmares out the way in my presentation. Cool. Can you see this now? It's all fine, yeah?
Yeah, it's all good.
Thank you. Cool. So yeah, this example under the plants and grasslands category is around wildflower enhancements. And we suggest around like to get in touch with your local wildlife trusts, well, for them, the estate services team, to get in touch with their local wildlife trusts, to let them know that this work's being undertaken, and also to see where they can source local plants or seeds. On this first page of the options, we also give examples of what community engagement options are available, what biodiversity benefits the options will bring, and what the costs or considerations might need to be. And we also give an indication of the ongoing management as well. Okay, cool, it's moving, excellent. And the second page of the management option gives information on how the option could be achieved, what time of year to undertake the activity, and also what long-term management is needed and what monitoring could be done on site to help residents get involved, such as butterfly counts or plant lives every flower count surveys. And so we give links to all these different surveys that you can take part in. As you can see on this slide, we also left some space for notes in the toolkit, as we wanted this resource to be taken out on site by estate services teams and for them to be able to annotate where on the site certain features could be established. So it's kind of like a management tool for the estate services teams. Cool, still going, excellent. And then this is another example from the toolkit as well, some more examples, and this is around bug hotels and nest boxes. And as you will no doubt know, nest box options are a good way to engage residents and estate services teams because they can be created together. And we've given links for websites like RSPB or a Wildlife Trust where they have instructions on how to make these boxes under sort of supplier information. And I have to say again, the fantastic estate services teams in Bracknell made some great nest boxes for birds on site. So it was very, very cool. And yes, final slide, no more problems. Yeah, so thank you very much for listening. And also I'd like to thank the fantastic team at Southern Housing Group, John Vince, who was just amazing, leading the biodiversity improvement works they did on site despite the pandemic and a very dry spring. He just did fantastically. Emma, Patrick and Ian at Southern Housing Group, who were just brilliantly enthusiastic and really bought into this project and participated so well and gave so many excellent ideas and inputs into the toolkit. And they've been using the toolkit on other sites. They've been promoting it within their networks. So it's just been a great collaboration. Also, Anna and Jack, the comms team at Southern Housing Group, who were very patient in getting the toolkit put online. So yeah, thank you to them. Yeah, the lovely residents at Mount Pleasant for their time and enthusiasm. They were brilliant. Our other partners in the project, like Tom, Molly, Sam, Julie, really lucky. A great UK CEH team as well. And the Field Studies Council, Simon Norman, just did an amazing job of bringing the toolkit to life. So thank you to him. And of course, thank you to NERC for the funding. So yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Jodey. Beautifully done. Just run to the end with just not quite enough time for questions. But I think we can sneak one in. Stephen Green asked, you recorded 300 species. Were they all plants or was that across all taxa?
So that's a good question. I'm sorry for not going into more detail. So yeah, it was actually, there was 225 plants and yes, I think it was 91 invertebrates. So yeah.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Jodey.